all three. So hi, I'm Kerry. I've had the privilege of working with Diana and Anna this year on a couple of shows about their experience of the Ukraine. So we kind of wanted to, one of the messages of the shows was to kind of remember that the war was still happening. So they used to spend their days in stone walls. They had favourite classes and those they dreaded. And how scary was it for them to think of failing a midterm? But after February the 24th, 2022, everything changed for Ukrainian students. Classrooms turned into bomb shelters and battlefields. Fear changed its course, and bravery took control. The Unissued Diplomas exhibition covers the stories of 40 Ukrainian students killed in the war. It's to remind the world about the ongoing war and the price Ukrainians pay daily in their fight for freedom. Unissued Diplomas honours the memory of Ukrainian students who will never graduate because their lives were taken by the Russian invasion. These are some of those students.
Ivana Bodzinska, 19 years old, Lisha, National University, Garden Design. Ivana was a mother of a pair of twins. She balanced getting an education and being a mom. She wanted to graduate and begin working as an landscape designer. Ivana enjoyed drawing, and her home could charm everyone with the fresh smell of her baking. She was learning the Turkish language. Ivana died alongside her children on March the 8th, 2022, International Women's Day, when 2 Russian bombs destroyed her house.
Valentin Mikinchuk, 18 years old, Chernihiv Polytechnical National University, Tourism. Valentin was funny and, like many his age, a bit stubborn. He wanted to get his driving license, so he was planning to take driving lessons in the summer of 2022. He loved playing video games and soccer. He was a fan of the Marvel series, so he always went to the cinema to watch them with his sister. He always eager to help his family and friends when needed. And he died on March 14, 2022 in Trinity region. Soldiers shoot him with that gun.
Valentin Levchenko, 18 years old, National University of Life and Environment Science of Ukraine, Forestry. Valentin was a kind young man with a subtle sense of humor. He liked riding motorbikes with his friends and doing sports. He dreamed of a happy future. He wanted to graduate, start a job, and see the world. He died on July 19th, 2022, near Dmytrivka, Kharkiv region. With the heroic self-sacrifice, he saved the lives of 13 soldiers.
Danilo Bochukov, 22 years old, Mariupol State University, Management of Foreign Economic Activity. Danilo was very kind, sensible, responsible, and easy to resolve conflict situation. He had a good sense of humor. He made plans for the future for his girlfriend, and they intended to live together. He was expected to be promoted at work. Danilo died rescuing his father and grandmother. He ran to the apartment, the door of which was jammed, and tried to get in. A Russian missile struck his house, causing it to collapse. Danilo was crushed with the slabs of concrete, and he could not be retrieved out from under the rubble for a month and a half.
These diplomas will never be issued because Russia took the lives of their to-be owners in its attempt to take Ukraine's freedom.
This is Cindy, and do you have any views for helping?
This is Cindy.
And I know Cindy from King's Table, where we have a lovely community gathering where we eat, we have games as well, and Cam and JPDL have been coming along to do this creative writing with them. So this is what Cindy has prepared. So my mother brought me from Los Angeles, America, to Gloucester when I was 8.
My American passport been stolen 40 years.
Okay.
Yeah, not go everywhere.
Okay.
I don't want to go everywhere.
No, you want to stay, you like it here. Then my mother took me to my family house in Cheltenham. My mum had 2 husbands. My real dad was British, but he died when I was 14. My mum married a second time. Her second husband was American.
Yeah.
He was nice.
Yeah.
My mum had 9 children.
Oh, nice.
7 boys
Me like in the
and 2
oh,
girls.
yes.
They're all in heaven apart from Cindy.
Yeah.
A big family.
Mm.
I am the only one left on earth. They are in heaven. I have a big family too.
Yeah.
I had 4 children in England, 2 boys and 2 girls. A success.
Yeah, me.
I have lived in Cheltenham for 40 years. My 4 children have grown up and are all alive. They all have their own families in London. My children, my relatives, my wider family, I don't know where they are. It's complicated and it makes me crazy.
Yeah,
I miss them.
crazy by myself.
Yeah.
Company, people,
Yeah.
outside home.
Yeah. She misses them and she gets lonely, don't you?
So Max is getting this with JPDL, how?
Yeah, it's a little thing Richard and myself wrote about some experiences back in 1990, and it's called Call Up. I was apprehensive when I first got called up. I was with 4626 Air Evacuation Squadron. This was a medical unit. The army goes out to kill them, we go out to save them. In 1990, I was 40 years old, a lot older now. War started in 1991. You can't argue, you just got to go. The Gulf War, Desert Storm. I think I'm one of the oldest ones left. I don't see many of my old ones now. Here's a true story. You might not find it funny, but if you've got the army thing, you will find it good. 2 lads and an officer came through our medical unit. I asked one of the lads, "What's wrong with your officer?" "Well, I think he must have upset one of his troops." Because it did happen out there. Because the other one turned to me and said, "He's been shot in the arse." And I found out I didn't use it. Because I was ex-army as well. You can't enjoy war. Nobody enjoys war. It's a hell. But it was a hell of an experience that I went through. And I enjoyed all my military days. Especially going out, picking up injured people, bringing them back, and getting them back home to see their loved ones. So thank you very much for listening.
Just a couple of pieces, and one of them was, don't worry, it's all right, it's all right, thank you. Very bright, yes, the cameras, anyway. Just a couple of pieces which I know Dave was talking about, Dave Clark here from Trinity, something about faith, which I put together the other night, about 3 or 4 hours, putting together and making a few alterations. Also, I was speaking to some people about a month ago and they were saying, quite a few internationals here would like to know a bit about the English language and things like that. I was thinking, well, So the two topics I've got going back between 1,000 years and 2,000 years. So actually, we're going back a bit. Also, I know France has been mentioned. I've got a few points here as well. So I'll crack on. It's about England, union and language. And there's so much information on this I should hasten to add. But actually try and pinpoint pieces, and actually so much information you can put together, it'll be so long you can write a book on it. So I've actually pinpointed a few pieces of information which I think that's more of interest. Welcome to England. England is a comparatively small island nation located in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Population nearly 70 million. England is located in Western Europe and a separate island within the Greater United Kingdom, much smaller than many of the European neighbours, and also with a slightly larger population, you could say, in terms of area than many of our European neighbours. Close to France and having spoken French for 300 years, not a lot of people know that, after the Norman conquest, quite an invaded land, with approximately 60% of the land mass, that's England, 60%. It's located in Western Europe, but once bordered France. So we didn't have to go, didn't have to go across the river, the Channel, close to the, even closer to the wider continent. Britain has had conflicts with France over the centuries. In 1337, the 100-Year War began. It started with King Edward III of England, who tried to invade France. Well, that didn't have a very good end. 116 years later, France won and settled over Britain and all over our culture. Something still happens to this day. England borders Scotland up in the far north and Wales to the west. England derives its name, another bit of a European influence here, from the Angles, land of the Angles, a Germanic tribe who settled during the 5th and 6th centuries. So the German and French influence here all around us. In the 21st century, European dominance is nothing new. We have welcomed our overseas neighbours and embraced cultures and been more open and accepting to French people than perhaps non-natives are to France over the decades. And there's quite a few French people living here as well, especially in and around London. The Kingdom of England, which included Wales after 1535, ceased to be a separate sovereign state on the 1st of May 1707, when the Acts of Union brought into effect political union with the United Kingdom of Scotland, which created Great Britain. Present day situation. And as you may have been well aware of, the Scottish National Party, the last few years, been talked about an awful lot, has been promoting an independence cause for over 10 years with a rather close referendum in 2014. This remains a potential divisive subject to this day, and the Union could still be under threat in the future if politicians fail to invest in Scottish causes, livelihoods and industry. I expect looking closely at this new government as well. The Romans invaded Britain and stayed for over 500 years, making their presence felt over the centuries, which is still evident today. You can tell that, as you know, if you go to Bristol and Cirencester is one place not that far away, an old Roman city. The Romans did make their mark on this country. Notable key dates and events, there's a few here of the many. Roman invasion was 43 AD. The Romans conquered most of England, naming towns, cities and building roads and small towns for their inhabitants. The Norwegian invasion, 1066, French became a major language, the same time as the Battle of Hastings. The 1086 was the Domesday Book. 1649, Britain became a republic when King Charles I had his head cut off. It was a republic until 1660. The back in history we were a republic. 1666, the Great Fire of London. 1665-66 was the Great Plague, and that went from London all the way up north, on a bit of linen apparently, many years ago. 1834, the slavery was finally abolished following the Slave Trade Act of 1807, which had taken 18 years after 1807 to pass. Nothing new there then, with contentious and lengthy public resolutions. 1966, the Northern Ireland conflict began, until 1998, that went on when the peace process was signed, but not to 100% peace in Northern Ireland. As you know, to this day, there's still problems over there. 1990, the Channel Tunnel building started, finished in 1994. That's the direct railway link from London to Paris across below the Channel. And 2020, Britain left the EU after 47 years. Local history, Tewkesbury. You've probably heard of the medieval festival, well, the War of the Roses, 1455-1487, Battle of Tewkesbury, commemorated every year, 1471. House of that between the House of Lancaster and the House of York. The battle is reenacted each summer in Tewkesbury during the rather authentic medieval festival. I think it's on about mid-July, if you ever want to visit. This was rooted in the economic and social troubles caused by the 100-Year War with France. That went on from 1337 to 1453, lasting 116 years, as I say, as France won. Does all this remind you of anything today? The war of suffering, still fighting over territory and economics and oppression. English accents. The spoken English accent not only varies around native Britain, but also in other counties where English is generally spoken, and also there's countries where English is used in general, such as USA, Canada and Australia, and there's also dialects there as well, different dialects, and you could normally tell where people are from. Regional dialects in the UK though, they do actually vary, and any of you from abroad may not realise, but if you go to Lancashire, there's actually differences in the accents, like Yorkshire, between the different towns. Bolton, Rochdale and Manchester, for example, up north, being all different places in the same county, but actually slightly different accents. Probably we couldn't tell unless we actually were up there for a time or lived up there. And like I say, the same can be said about Yorkshire. Differences in word and sound with distinct variation from place to place, which can confuse those of us not from the actual area. As alluded to earlier, frightful for some thinking of World War II, English is a West Germanic language. If you go back far enough, the Indo-European language family. But I was actually once told by a Welsh retired school teacher that the English, and he actually lived in Yorkshire for about 20 years, when he was a teacher, said to me that it was actually started in Yorkshire by the peasants. So I don't know how true that was or not, but that's the English language where it began apparently. As you can tell, our ties with Europe are nothing new, and they go back far further than the Treaty of Rome, 1956, and are joining the EEC as it was in 1973, long before most of us were born, all these other historical events where we had a contention with the French. Speakers called Anglophones originated in early medieval England, the namesake of the language of Angles, A-N-G-L-E-S. This is one of the ancient Germanic peoples that migrated to Britain, as with so many other people over the centuries. English has become the most widely spoken language in the world. It's the third most spoken native language after Mandarin, Chinese that is, and Spanish, because notice French is not mentioned here. And you may ask how there are more native speakers of these other languages. Well, it's to do with population size and the amount of people who speak the native tongue. You can imagine China's got a massive population. English is, however, the most widely learned second language, with more second language speakers than native speakers. So, as you can imagine, most parts of the world there is some form of English spoken, even if it's pidgin English or whatever else. But it's quite important to learn these days for business and everything else. Estimated to be 2.5 billion people worldwide speaking it as a second language, and the main lingua franca for the European Parliament and the United Nations, as well as being one of the official languages for the Olympic Games, Paralympics, and in aviation as well. But French was also used for specific events and still is, Olympic Games, and also our old laws were actually written in French on parchment. Over the centuries, well, I think they still are, Old English evolved from Germanic dialects spoken by the Anglo-Saxons, and later grammar and vocabulary from Old Norse. That was a North Germanic language. But with continued French influence, Middle England borrowed words extensively from the French dialects, as well as Latin, which was a total of 56% of the language put together. And French vocabulary is still used today, and incorporated into our language some way. We've got a lot of French words actually in this, which we don't even know about some. We've got, and that all coming after the Norman Conquest, and basically some examples to include art, competition, force, machine, table, and various other forms in language. And basically,
Time
yeah.
Perhaps move to the last bit of that.
Yeah, no. And most users are not conscious in the fact that the words actually originate from the French language.
This is written by a good friend of mine, Joseph, whom quite a lot of you will probably know from King's Table at Trinity Church. It's called How One Thing Leads to Another. 182 cards I made, cards like this, beautiful cards that he paints. Some are for fundraising, and some are gifts to staff, guests, trustees, people in hospital. In Worcester, we had an exhibition at the Cathedral and the Guildhall raising money for Mag's Day Centre, which is open each weekday morning. They provide meals, laundry, bus passes, tickets, travel tickets, and so on. John Maggs died lying on the old church steps in Worcester one cold winter night. We must never, never allow this to happen here again, said the bishop. And now for 40 years, the Mag's Day Centre has been serving the poor and the dispossessed, day in, day out in Worcester City. I put about 5 or 6 big art pieces into the exhibition, and they put them in frames. There were about 35 pieces from people using the day centre. You could buy copies of them, but the originals are still at the day centre. A chap came up to me and he said that he wanted to buy one of my big pieces for his wife. But I said, you can only buy smaller copies of it, not the original. He said, no, I want that big one. I said, you can have these smaller copies. The original has gone to the day centre. So the gentleman took the little copies, a bit begrudgingly, but he gave a substantial amount to the manager of the day centre. I also do fundraising for Open Door here in Cheltenham by making cards. And there was one who came to see the centre who was a CEO of 4 companies. A self-made millionaire. What a beautiful man. His shoes cost £648. He was a lovely, beautiful man. I gave him a quick tour of Open Door and introduced him to some of the clients. And he said to me, well, I've come here to give a little bit of money. How much would you consider to be a reasonable amount? I said, that's an easy question. One thing leads to another. I've already raised £5,500 from an art exhibition at Worcester Cathedral. There wasn't a lot that he could say to that. He went into the office, and there was a little squeak from a female member of staff. She came out shouting, what on earth did you say to him? You're my best ever fundraiser. £15,500 from one conversation. One thing does lead to another.
Everyone, my name is Antonia, and am a wife and a mother. I am a community worker, and I work part-time with GARAS, Gloucester Action for Refugees and Asylum Seekers, and I work looking after the people who are seeking asylum at the hotels. And I am also part of the small group in Gloucester called She Spoke, and She Spoke wanted to be here today, and I am representing them, and I believe someone is there, if we have time. So I wanted to read 2 poems. So She Spoke started during COVID time, and most recently we have been writing more about asylum seekers, refugees, homeless. The first poem I'm going to read, I wrote it to my father. He was a migrant. The migrant macrame maker. The migrant macrame maker. His square hands moving fast, making baskets. A fag and a song bring the knotting along. The basket is coming at last. He picked the last olive. The land was drought. For his children he left with a small luggage and shoes shined for next Sunday. A bus passes. A dream of wealth picks up a handful of men, leaves a clutch of their wives, crying in scarcity. And there he goes, the migrant macrame maker, alone and excited, dreaming of getting rich. Perhaps he can buy land or save money. He works from the sunrise, cleaning a bar, assists in the kitchen, on to the water factory, till sunset. Back to the small room at night, he lights a cigarette, places it on his lips, begins to rest. His square hands find the course of the macrame on the making, a macrame basket. He keeps going, working fast. His hands are busy. He manages. Another basket is finished. Another basket to forget the past. And this poem is based in a true story, and I found very helpful writing, and it helped me with my vicarious trauma. A journey home. They say home is where the heart is. But where is home when your heart is broken? I went out to visit him. Bombs sounded far away. Later, sounded closer to where I was. We are at war. I returned to find our home destroyed. They were all killed. Mom, Dad, my brothers. Mama, Mama! I felt numb. Ran away, ran to him, to his home. We left the country the next morning as a season of different countries began, one after another. But he was left behind. In one of those countries, we only had enough to pay for me. More countries passed. I found myself in Europe, in a camp. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. I want to go home. I am cold here. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I want to go home. Can't stay here anymore. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Tonight we are leaving, walking in the dark. I reached an unknown place. I felt the baby moving. I lived in joy and fear. I wrapped myself with the coat. You are hidden now, my dear. No one must see you. Only God knows. I was pushed into the ground. 1 time, a second time, again and again. Walk fast, he shouted. We're going to miss the boat. I couldn't walk fast. My feet hurt. I was thirsty. I was hungry. I want to go home, but wanted to die there and then. Suddenly, I felt the baby again. It gave me strength. On the boat, crushed, crowded around, pushed on all sides. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I want to go home. I couldn't breathe. Too many bodies. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Then, finally at land, a new home. And just the last point is very short, and it's kind of a continuation of the last point. And it's called Reunited. Coming together again after such a long time. Coming together again after years of pain behind. Coming together again. How can this be? Coming together again, no longer 2, but 3.
Very conscious that we're over time and that there's a few people that haven't said their poems. I'm so sorry, but we've got the wonderful Steve who's going to come and play for us now.
Oh, we're not going to do the poetry?
I think we have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Have you got a short one perhaps, Steve, if you wanted?
Okay.
I'm just conscious that we've gone over
Read.
by 10 minutes.
I thought it was 8 o'clock you finished.
Mine are very, very short. I can read 2. So basically I did a self-guided poetry trail. So I did a self-guided poetry trail of Pitfall Park. So there are 11 poems here, and if you scan the QR code you can listen to the poems. I'll just read one, shall I? I'll just read one because of the time. So this one is called Lake. Lake. May your mind find stillness, become as a lake on a summer's day. Let the wind of life draw beautiful ripples on the canvas of your imagination. These tender loving thoughts long to radiate out as circles into your being. Beauty longs to embrace you like thousands of sparkling diamonds shimmering on the surface. May the light bring a glowing dance to every moment of your life. Come, be still, be quiet, and know life loves you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone who has come and read stories or poems. Sorry for those of you that haven't managed to have time to say your pieces, but we really appreciate you coming out and supporting and being such a supportive audience as well. Want to thank the people at P3 and King's Table and the Ukrainian Youth Theatre and Kerry Ballman, and for JPDL and Martin Litton for all their help with the project, and to Corinne for the sound, and for the Everyman Theatre for giving us this space. So thank you very much to Steve, who's now going to play us out. Thank you so much, everybody.